I mean, I think if you're rating a game 1 point higher than me, then we basically thought the exact same thing about the game.
Exactly. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Digital C podcast. Tanner, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a really good time to be us because we have not finished just one game that we're about to record about. We've finished two games we're about to record about. And just before we got on air, we were talking about how that's probably never happened for us before, where we have two games finished back to back. We're ready to kind of talk about them. Luckily, even though I know we've done a lot of talking about how this year has been stacked with really, really big experiences, I'm looking at you, Crimson Desert. We have also been graced with some really quick and tight experiences that have been really fun. So I'm excited to talk to you about this game today. I'm excited to talk to you about the next game after this and to see what else this year has to offer.
Yeah. And for those who don't know yet, we are talking about Replaced today. And next week, or next episode rather, we'll be talking about Pragmata, which is the latest dad simulator.
That's right.
But Replaced, this is a game that we've seen over the course of 2 years, maybe 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say we first saw it, either 2023 or 2024. We've seen it at Summer Games Fest. We've seen it at the Game Awards, and it just looked absolutely insane. Super beautiful. Maybe some of the most high-end graphical 2.5D style that we've seen yet, or at least that I've seen, maybe. And it's finally here.
Yeah, it was. We were anticipating this for a while. I don't think we got to play it at PAX, if it even was there. I don't believe it was, but it's been something that's been on both of our radars. We're both really into the aesthetic. We love kind of that 1980s synthwave, cyberpunk-esque vibe. You know, we're coming off of our cyberpunk episode that we recorded, just a couple months ago. So it's kind of interesting to come back to a different take of the cyberpunk genre so quickly.
Yeah, I don't believe it was at PAX last year. I don't remember it being there. Now we're here.
So really quick, before we get started deep into this Replaced conversation, I wanted to talk to you about a couple games I've been playing, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So number one, and I'm sure this is a game that I don't think we're going to record an episode on, but I'm probably going to touch on it when we go to at the end of the year and we talk about the games we've played this year, or games that made us feel something 2026 edition or whatever we call it. But Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hopes came out like a week ago, and it is a very interesting title. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it, and I've had it kind of on my radar hesitantly, only because anytime you have one of your favorite or beloved IPs getting a game, you just kind of hold your breath and go, well, it's probably going to be a movie tie-in thing, and it'll be mediocre.
Yeah. But
it sounds like it's FTL meets some sort of what is the old OG space RTS game that I'm completely blanking on the name of, and there's been a couple entries.
Oh, StarCraft?
Not StarCraft. No, it's like properly space based.
Oh,
where you can
Sins of a Solar Empire.
No, also.
I'll keep naming space RTSs that I can think of.
No, it's like
I got it.
Homeworld.
Oh,
Homeworld.
Okay. I was gonna say Stellaris, which is more
of
yeah.
with how little information you have to go off of, and this is a complete. I get this from my mom a lot, where like my mom will just be like, yeah, like that thing, and then she just like expects me to like telepathically like hear her.
Yeah.
And what she means and what she's saying. No, those were all good guesses based off of how little information I give you. Homeworld, I think, is the game that I was thinking of. It's basically just your standard RTS game in space. The first one came out in the 90s, I think.
Okay.
And there's been a few entries since then. Sorry, but as somebody who has not played the game and has only read a little bit about it, it looks like FTL meets Homeworld or a space RTS type. But you tell me, because I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a lot like that, and I would throw in that there's a little bit of like, for some reason I'm blanking the name of it. It's like a grand strategy. What's like Stellaris, and what are like pandemic games like Civ and stuff?
Yeah, those are times 4
times 4.
games.
So it mixes in a little bit of that into it, I would say, because it's kind of like your colony simulator as well. But Not that long ago, I would say late 2025, I was kind of craving an FTL style experience, but I've played so much FTL in my life that I can't play that game anymore, even with the mods and there's shoot, I'm gonna blank the name of the fan made expansion mod. I think it's called Outer Rift or something like that. But there's a damn it, I wish I should look it up to be accurate on that. But there's a really cool fan made mod for FTL that just adds a ton of depth and a ton of new locations and a ton of new weapons and stuff like that, and a couple more ships and aliens and stuff. But even with that, it's just not enough for me, and I've been craving something like that. So I downloaded a game called Void War that was probably late 2026, and I think it came out maybe a year prior, late 2025, and I think it came out a year prior, maybe like 2024 or something like that. And I'm just talking out of my ass here. I'm not sure exactly when Void War came out. It's a good game, but it's basically just FTL, but in the Dune universe or something similar to the Dune universe. So think like instead of hardcore science fiction or like space sci-fi, it's still in space and you're in spaceships, but there's like a post-apocalyptic gothic element to it, kind of like Dune might invoke. I'm not sure. I don't think it's specifically in the Dune universe, but it's something like that. But it adds a lot more complexity. There's a lot more things to manage, and it's an interesting game, but it just didn't hit for me very hard because it just felt like FTL with mods. So flash forward to Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hopes, and this is a take on FTL, but it's in a direction that I was really glad to see some like developers take that genre. It's two steps forward and one step backwards, I would say. I don't have that much time into Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hopes. I've only played it for maybe 3 to 5 hours, but it has really fun strategy elements in between each jump, kind of like an FTL where you jump from sector to sector. You have a set amount of turns, and in that set amount of turns, you can perform actions within your fleet, like getting resources, solving problems that come up, kind of like you would in any kind of 4-time strategy game. Like in Civ, you're managing your cities and you're trying to research stuff, and you can research stuff. And then those turns are how long it takes you for the Cylons to catch up to you. So as soon as like you run out of turns, the Cylons catch up to you. You have to make a jump, but before you can jump, you have to battle the Cylons off for long enough for your FTL drive to spool up. So it's very cool, and it's very immersive into the Battlestar Galactica universe. In fact, they use the Battlestar Galactica theme song in the intro to the game every time you boot it up, which is really immersive and really fun. But it can be very slow, and it can be kind of a slog. So I'm kind of torn on how I feel about it, but it's an interesting game, and I just wanted to bring it up to you tonight.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. Was the mod that you were speaking about prior, was that Multiverse?
Yes, I think that was Multiverse, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to do some research, and I just see that the first Reddit comment is FTL Multiverse must be one of the greatest mods for any game ever, and I'm like, This is probably what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's what it is. And for those who don't know, I traveled around the world for a while, and I only had my 2009 MacBook Pro with me, and so basically FTL was what I played while I was traveling. So I played a lot of it. I was gone for a while.
Yeah, it was that and Knights of the Old Republic, and not the MMO, like the actual OG BioWare game.
Yep.
If I remember correctly, are the two games that you had that could run on Mac, because of course your options are very limited when it comes to PC gaming. On Mac,
exactly,
so.
And especially a 2009 MacBook Pro. And I think when I was traveling was quite a while ago now. It was like 2016. So yeah, so I mean, it was with Knights of the Republic 1 and Knights of the Old Republic 2. And I played some other vintage games. I actually played like a decent amount of Daggerfall on my MacBook. And yeah, mostly just FTL and maybe RimWorld.
Yeah, RimWorld, yeah.
And those were all
a must.
Those are the games that kept me satiated while I was away from my gaming PC and my friends and most of my life back home. So anyways, yeah, so FTL holds a special place in my heart, and I really like this take, so I highly recommend it. Another game I've been playing is Returnal on PC.
Ooh, which is perfect timing, because its spiritual successor from the same developer just released Seiros.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but did you know that Returnal has a multiplayer update?
It does have a multiplayer update. Yeah. And in fact, when I saw that you've been playing a little bit of this, I went, that turd. I thought we talked about playing co-op on this game.
Damn it. I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
When Luna was going to be at summer camp doing all of her stuff, I was like, oh, this would be a perfect opportunity for us to dial in and get some of this in.
Wait, but if I thought we were going to play Seiros. Co-op.
Well, I talked about Saris as well, but prior to that, I talked about Returnal as well,
Ooh,
and like whether or not we should play that one first because that's technically the like the OG of, I forget the developer's name for these two games.
home.
I'm not even sure if Saros has co-op at all.
I think
or
Saros
maybe
is based around co-op, is what I thought.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure though.
Yeah, but I know around, if my memory's right, around the same time that that Returnal got ported to PC, they came out with the co-op update, or the co-op update was shortly before the port, or don't quote me, but yeah, this looks super interesting and super cool for co-op.
Yeah, I'm still kind of deciding what I feel about it. I'm not that far in. If we want to jump into it co-op, I think it would benefit a lot from co-op. But yeah, I'm excited about it. It's pretty fun. I'm just looking for. I've been really craving that roguelike experience, I think, and when I found out that Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hopes was a little bit more strategy than it was roguelike. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very roguelike, but I wanted more of that like Hades, do a quick run, lots of action, upgrade, feel like you're really making massive upgrades throughout your runs, and I just find that gameplay loop really fun and satisfying with the randomness and how you can create really fun builds. That's part of the reason I love Balatro so much, is because you can just create these insanely broken builds, and it just feels, it gives you a really good feeling of you felt like you broke the game because you made such a sick ass epic build. And it's just, I've never had really a roguelike give me that feeling more than Balatro. And then Hades can give you that feeling pretty good as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's been a couple of games that I've been playing that I just wanted to tell you about because I haven't been able to chat games with you in a while.
Right. Yeah. Well, you've got my attention when an RTS comes up or something anywhere in the realms of FTL comes up. It's always intriguing to me that with how much the gaming industry borrows from each other when it comes to game ideas, that people just kind of ignore certain concepts to steal from. FTL is one that I feel like has not been borrowed from really enough or at all.
Yeah.
Or, you have unfortunate instances where Shadow of Mordor and the publisher did a copyright on the Nemesis system. So as you can tell, there hasn't been a single game that's been able to come out to rip off that system and make a game just like it, because that is under patent or copyright or whatever. But as we know, indie developers don't have the finances and abilities to lock things down like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, no, it's super exciting stuff, and I'd be interested to check that one out later in the year.
Yeah, I would recommend highly to check out, rip both these games from my Steam library, rip Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hopes, and then also rip Void War and boot that up and play a couple rounds and see what you think, because it is basically a copy and paste version of FTL, which is why I didn't like it very much, because I just felt like, why am I not just playing FTL? Multiverse, and I like the aesthetics of FTL a little bit more than I like that Dune post-apocalyptic space style. So
yeah, it's like a Souls like I should just be playing a game that FromSoft made.
Yeah, yeah.
That's usually the feeling.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, I have been playing Retro Rewind. It is a VHS video store simulator. So imagine running a Blockbuster, and
yeah, I've seen you playing that.
And yeah, that one's consumed me for a little bit. You just download a bunch of mods so that you have real life movies and real life soda pops and popcorns and slushies and candy bars, and just make it as immersive as possible with mods, and just have at it and have a good time. I feel like you would appreciate at least the vast selection of films and movies that you can have at your store. A lot of modders have come through and added, like 10,000 plus movies from 90s and earlier, and being able to see those on the store shelves and rent them out to people and do that whole thing's been fun. That's pretty much all I've been playing, with exception to Replaced and Pragmata. So
I've been tempted to get back into Crimson Desert, but for some reason I'm just not drawn to it. I'll get back into it eventually, I'm sure, but it just
exact same thing here.
Yeah, just
I've been nomming and completing all of these shorter experiences, and while the 80 hours that I put into Crimson Desert I loved, I am not quite ready to return yet for possibly another 80 hours. So yeah.
I will be interested to see if either one of us can get through that game by the end of the year. I hope we can, but either way, we're going to have a lot of other fun games to talk about in the future. And I've actually had some pretty good ideas lately for episodes we can record that we don't need to put a lot of time into. I would love for us to play Star Citizen for like 20 hours each and probably co-op and then record an episode about our experience.
That'd be a crazy good episode. The other one that we've talked about prior, what game, when is it okay to play your own music during a video game and mute its soundtrack?
Yeah.
This Retro Rewind game, like many of this style of game, which I've spoke on before, is 110% a mute the music and fine tune a curated playlist to match the vibe, because it's an indie game. You know, the gameplay loop is like pretty monotonous, and as I've been playing Retro Rewind, I'm like, yeah, like this, you know, put on a synthwave playlist and have a good time, because the one song that repeats over and over and over in this game, like it's literally just one song for the entire game. Like, nah, I'm not listening to this one song for 20 hours, you know. So anyways, get us all riled up.
I can't wait to get in that conversation, because I know that you know that I have strong feelings about this.
I know.
I knew you were doing that too, because we got on to play some Night Rain the other night, and you went to go, I think right when you got on Discord, you're like, oh, I got to turn down my synthwave. It's in my headphones too loud. And I was like, oh, he's listening to music while playing the VHS game.
While playing Retro, yep.
Well, speaking of Retro, should we talk about Replaced? Do you have a score for Replaced?
I do. Do you have a score for Replaced?
Yeah, but I need to lock it in. What did I write down in my notes?
Replaced for me, I know it's boring, same score as the last episode. 8.5 is what I'll give Replaced.
8.5. Interesting.
8.5.
That's the same as 1,000 Times Resist.
Yes, exactly. For whatever that's worth. Yeah, same as 1,000 Times Resist.
Interesting. I mean, this is classic in line with how you and I score games. I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Nice. Anytime I'm 1 point or a half point higher than you, I feel like I'm not crazy and I'm locked in.
No, yeah, I think that I think if you're rating a game 1 point higher than me, then we basically thought the exact same thing about the game.
Exactly.
I really enjoyed my time with this game. My quick notes on it before we get into the meat of this discussion is that it is a unique game that starts slow, has clunky traversal and interesting combat that overstays its welcome by maybe an hour of gameplay. And that's kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah, I wrote after completing the game, 80s Uncharted Cyberpunk eye candy.
Yeah. 2.5D.
2.5D. I cannot disagree with it overstays its welcome as far as gameplay length goes. I think you could cut out about an hour, maybe even 2 hours of this game, and it would probably just make it better. This is without a doubt the most beautiful 2.5D game that I have ever played. Now, it's not to say that my catalog is significant. Yeah, this game is gorgeous. It's on a whole nother level.
Yeah, and I think that the distinction has to be made for that. I think that 0.5 is doing a lot of work in the 2.5D, because I've played some really beautiful 2D side scrollers. Games like Ori or Inside, or you played Blasphemous, you reviewed that for Magnetic. Those are all beautiful games, right? So what do you think makes it this game different from those, besides that extra 0.5 dimension?
Yeah, when I'm calling it Uncharted eye candy, I mean it in the greatest sense of Naughty Dog's filmic vision of their games. This game's pixel art is very, very, very well done. I think the 2.5 part is arguably the weakest part of the graphical presentation. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, because of where they put the cameras and because of how they're shooting, quote unquote, shooting the game as far as imagery goes and angles and all that, it brings out the best in the game. It's very intentional, and you can tell somebody put a lot of time into the camera is going to be exactly here when the player is doing exactly this. And I think that goes a long ways.
I agree, and it complements the aesthetics so well, because I think what this game does, kind of like what we were talking about earlier in our discussion about how so much is borrowed in the games medium, in a good way. I think that that's a good thing for the most part. But what this game does is it borrows a lot from all sorts of media, particularly film. And I think that's why the game comes across as so filmic, because, this game is obviously a play on Blade Runner, right? This is like that style of cyberpunk universe. There's two different takes on cyberpunk that I've seen. One is like retro cyberpunk, like 1980s tube television cyberpunk, and the other one is Cyberpunk 2077 style, where it's all very futuristic. I tend to prefer the 80s retro Cyberpunk more than I do this futuristic Cyberpunk personally. I think it's just a more interesting and kind of gritty aesthetic. I think the 2077 take is a bit more of a realistic take, quote unquote, realistic take. But man, there's just something about that analog, like when you pull up your journal, you're scrolling a wheel to go through like the texts, like your thumb is
Yeah, it's like
scrolling
a
stuff.
cassette.
Yeah,
Yeah, like if you were to take a cassette tape player, smash it into a pager, smash it into a Nokia phone.
it's so sick. I really like that aesthetic. There's something really charming and really tactile about it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's I think the 2077 version of the Cyberpunk take is sometimes so realistic that it's depressing. I think that's
Yeah,
one of the reasons why I don't like it as much, because Bezos and Zuckerberg and Elon all rule the world with their megacorps and make decisions and influence the government, and you're like, oh, this is very relatable and sad. When you get to go back 40 years, and you have the synth wave, and you've got the simplicity of technology, but like the retro Bioshock-esque technological advancements, where it's like, this is very retro, but it's also very future at the same time.
yeah. There's a word for it called retrofuturism.
Okay, there it is. Thank you. As I stumble over myself.
No,
Yeah, the retro future is, I like that because it allows you to visit a time period that we were never a part of, but we're able to envision because we are part of the progression of technology itself for what our lives have consisted of.
exactly. That's really well said. And I think that there's a certain charm about, so take it using Blade Runner as an example. I think that movie gets a little bit more hype than it deserves. Have you seen Blade Runner, Ryan?
I have not seen Blade Runner. In fact, Anate has said the next time it rains at nighttime, we have to watch Blade Runner. She's been trying to get me to watch it, and I go, that sounds great, but of course our springs have no precipitation anymore because of climate change. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Well, you should watch it. I'd be really interested to hear what you think. I'm surprised you never watched it just because of your Star Wars lore love. Like, because it's like, it's like the Harrison Ford film.
What year did this?
It
There's
had to have
old
been
Blade Runner
80s.
and new Blade Runner, and one's probably more popular than the
Well,
other.
there's
Like, when did this come out?
original Blade Runner was in the 80s. And then the new Blade Runner was with Ryan Gosling, and that was called Blade Runner 2042, I believe. And that came out, I don't know, 2017 or something like that.
Okay, I was trying to figure out if I could blame my parents for not being allowed to watch PG-13 movies.
I'm
throughout my
sure
entire
you probably
teenage years.
could. I don't think your parents wanted you to watch Blade Runner because I think there's some, nudity in it and stuff. But I think that the Blade Runner is a good film. It's a great film actually. I think it gets a little bit overhyped, but there is no denying the aesthetics in that film. The thing I love about retrofuturism, especially when it was created in the 80s or something before, I don't know, the year 2000, is that it had the idea of what the future would look like based on the greed that existed within capitalism at the time. And so you see this representation of, okay, in the future, we're going to have flying cars. In the future, we're going to have really greedy corporations. In the future, we're going to have fascism. And those are all things that were tangible in the 80s, right? We could reach out and almost touch them. Maybe not necessarily flying cars, but it's just like this idea of the future. And that's something really interesting to me and charming, because you take the Cyberpunk 2077 rendition of what the future holds for us, and it's just, like you said, so much more depressingly realistic. Like, there's screens everywhere. There's ads constantly being shoved down your throat in a way that is really intrusive. There's sex
Everything's
everywhere.
hypersexualized.
Yes.
Yep.
Like, it is just, it's the future that we know is probably coming. And then there's also the fascism. There's also the, monitoring and the police state and stuff like that. So it's nice to have this kind of like, oh, they thought that it was gonna be like this in the 80s. That was really cute of them. Not in a patronizing way, but in like a pure, like, that's what it used to be like kind of way. And I really appreciate that. I love technology. You and I are very big on technology. We both have top of the line gaming PCs and we love building PCs, but I really respect the history of technology as well. And analog technology is part of that. And having these like tube televisions and having these buttons you have to press and not touch buttons is really just it's a really fun aesthetic. And so that's why this game kind of pulled me in the very beginning. I really like that aesthetic. Now, what slowed me down in this game, I thought the story took a while to pick up, personally.
Yeah, story takes a while to get rolling. Absolutely. Tracking back to what you said,
Yeah.
original Blade Runner 1982, Blade Runner 2049, 2017, as far as release dates go.
Wow. I fucking nailed that.
Yeah, exactly. You're dialed in.
Sick.
You're dialed in. Yeah, the story takes a while to get going. And speaking of episodes that we could have that has nothing to do with playing any individual game, is a game worth playing if you have to put in a certain amount of time before it starts getting good?
I mean, I think what we're doing is talking about Crimson Desert.
Now, okay, for me, I mean, I know eventually we'll have our episode, but for me, I was in from the start, 100%, and that's day one. That's before all the patches and before everything started getting ironed out.
I was not.
Yeah,
I was not.
Yeah, I was 110% in after like the 2-hour mark, and I think 2 hours is a reasonable amount of time to give a game a chance.
Yeah, but that's an interesting idea, though. It's an interesting concept of like, is a game worth playing if it requires such a huge upfront investment? I think we should dedicate an episode to that. I think it'd be really fun to like bring to the table a bunch of examples on for and against.
There's so many examples of this. There's so many games that are absolutely incredible, but Battle Brothers, right?
Yeah,
like Battle Brothers is a great example, and I'm only picking on that one because I know you really like Battle Brothers. But
I do.
There's a ton of like examples of games that just do not show their wings, or spread their wings rather, until you get past that threshold.
Yeah.
And it could be totally different for anybody else. Software Inc. most recently for me.
Yep.
Oh, the game is miserable. Trying to figure out how to not end your run for the first 10 hours, I would argue, or maybe more.
Yeah. I tried Software Inc. and it was, and even Battlestar Galactica Scatter Hopes. Like, I sat there reading the tutorial for probably 2 hours. Like, you have to learn a strategy game in order to have fun with it. It's like learning a new card game or like tabletop game, right? You have to read the rules. Otherwise, you're just kind of shooting in the dark. And I have to say, with stuff like strategy games, the answer is unequivocally yes. That's not to say that every strategy game is going to hit once you get through the tutorial, but I think that you have to learn the strategy games in order to develop a strategy to play them. But yeah, and I don't want to get too bogged down in this discussion because I could honestly talk about this all night. But I think that
right. This could be the episode right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
We haven't really talked about Replaced at all. We've talked about Blade Runner versus Cyberpunk.
Blade Runner games that we've been playing. That's not Replaced.
Yeah.
What we will be talking about in the future. And also other episodes.
Yeah. But I mean, this is our 11th episode we've recorded. If you're listening for this long, you know what's up. Like, we're going to just kind of shoot the shit and then we'll talk about the game for like the last, I don't know, half of the show maybe. I think that with strategy games, it's worth the investment. I think that it'd be interesting to talk about games that aren't strategy games that you really want to like, that you put in a bunch of effort to, but just couldn't end up liking. Because I have a lot of games on that list if I were to really sit down and think about it. And I'm not sure. For me, when it comes to a game like Replaced, the story is such a huge part of your motivation for playing it because the gameplay can be really great in a side-scrolling platformer, but it's got to be really, really great to keep you hooked if there's no story that is pushing you through the universe,
Yeah, absolutely. Games that I'm thinking of immediately, Metroid games, Ori and the Blind Forest, Silksong, Blasphemous, right? You have to have something that's really good as far as 2D gameplay goes. So yeah, it's got to be really engaging.
But I feel like most of those games you just listed also have amazing stories to back them up, right?
They kind of, I mean, they fall into the FromSoft formula, which is the more investigating you do, the better the story gets. But if you don't do any investigating at all, there's no story. And I know the no story part's a hot take, but like that's part of the investigation, right? Like I think if you do not put in the time and the effort in a lot of these games, you're not getting much of a story out of any of them.
Yeah.
With exception of maybe Ori. Ori's like pretty on the nose. But if you look at things like Blasphemous and
Hollow Knight.
Well, anyways, Hollow Knight and the rest of the ones that were listed, then yeah, if you're not doing your due diligence, you're also not getting all of the pie.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But what do you think of the story in so your first 3 hours of Replaced? What were your thoughts? Were you really into it right away? Was it just like Crimson Desert where you're like, oh yeah, I'm in? Or were you skeptical? What was your vibe?
So I played the demo at Steam Next Fest a few months before this game released because I was very excited for this one.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same Next Fest where Wind Rose was also demoed. I played that one as well. Both of these games are now out. One is completed, one is in early access. So I really knew what I was getting into. I knew I was getting into something that was more story focused. I knew that this game was going to be a graphical presentation. And I also knew that the core gameplay was very adventure and less technical and really compelling in that like pure gameplay sense. So I was able to get my expectations in check going into this game because of that demo. Without a doubt, the weakest point or the weakest aspect of Replaced is the gameplay. The combat is good, not great, and I have a bunch of things in which I feel like the gameplay could be better.
I want to come back to that.
Yeah, but as far as the story goes, as far as the presentation goes, the slow drip, all of that, like that's what got it to an 8.5.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all of that. I think that the story was slow to start out. I think it took me a second to get connected to the main character, but I really did once it clicked. It probably took me about 3 hours. I think it was after one of the missions, maybe after you sort of go through that first termite gang area, and release the slaves if you choose to do so. And then once you come back to the kind of main hub area and do some interacting, for some reason right around then is when it started clicking with me, because I started understanding what was happening in the story. Because it took me a second. I was kind of confused on who was who, and because Reach was referring to Warren in the third person, I was kind of confused on who Warren was and who Reach was. For some reason, I didn't pay attention enough in the beginning of the game. I don't know if I had just started and was like on my phone, or if I was like taking a drink of beer and just like looked down during some of the text, but I was just a bit confused, or just because I'm dumb, but one of the two. But
no, I had the same thing.
Okay.
Where it took a bit, right? It took a few hours, and then you're like, oh, I see what's going on here.
Exactly. And it isn't doing anything new, right? It's not necessarily spearheading any new ground when it comes to the good old AI has feelings story, which is basically exactly what Blade Runner is. Sorry, I know you haven't watched it, but this is the whole point of Blade Runner is
right.
You're hunting down AI. Like that's what anyways, I'm not going to spoil too much of it, but Blade Runner is dealing with
the AI that is a human.
Exactly. And it's just
the AI that resembles humanity, and man, is it hard to kill humanity if it's a robot, right?
Exactly. And it's an interesting time to be, you think about Blade Runner and when it was made, and AI was such a interesting concept, but it was such a pipe dream at the time. And now, we're in the AI revolution and we're talking about it all the time. And the question will have to be asked within our lifetimes, I think, of whether or not that computer has feelings. And so it's just interesting to kind of think of, this is something that I've been talking to you about for a long time. We've been talking to each other about this for a long time. I'm not saying we were like super smart and ahead of the curve. It's just, I think a lot of people were under the assumption that as computers keep getting better and as corporations inevitably can get money or financially benefit from having artificial intelligence, that's going to correlate with artificial general intelligence emerging and us having to ask the question, are they a slave, right? And that's what all these games are doing. You and I just finished Pragmata. That's essentially asking the exact same questions that this game was asking, and just in a different it was two sides of the same coin. It was two questions approached from different angles. That question's asked in Cyberpunk, the question's asked in Mass Effect, the question's asked over and over and over and over again. We have this fascination with this story. Now,
yeah, Soma.
Oh, Soma is probably the best example of that. And I would love to do an episode on Soma. We would both have to replay it, though, I'm sure.
Yeah, we definitely have to replay it. And I would totally replay it because that game's fantastic.
And you know what I think Soma does better than the AI question? Soma makes you contend with the idea that it's essentially the transporter problem, which is like if you were to deconstruct all your atoms and then reconstruct your atoms in a different place, are you dead now, right? Like just because you have all the
Yeah.
same memories
Yep.
you had before, that doesn't mean that the person that you were that walked into that transporter didn't just die, right? So it's an interesting concept, and I think Soma does that brilliantly. But it's interesting that we're as humans are so drawn to this story and that we don't feel like we're tired of it yet, because it's just been done so much, especially in video games. And I started to feel that a little bit in this game, but I think it adds such a nice charm and it's so well written that I didn't mind it very much.
Yeah, it's been done to death. You have Steven and Warren, right,
Yeah.
who you play as. Excuse me, Warren, who you play as, and Steven is your genius roommate who ends up barging in on you, and together you guys create Reach, which is the AI. It has good intentions, of course. It's meant to match donors with recipients to save lives, and it's supposed to be this like huge medical breakthrough. And of course, like almost all technology, arguably, it gets weaponized first, and then it has its intended purpose second, and it becomes more intelligent. And Warren uses it for unethical purposes, and Steve doesn't like it, and yada yada. And then that's kind of the gist of how things are all kickstarted. Yeah, and it's interesting, especially now where you hear horror stories in the news of people who are clearly going through a really tough mental instability, or they're dealing with a lot of mental health issues in their life, and they're talking to these AI that are still in their infancy. And whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, right? We have people who are already treating our current AI system as therapists, and I never do anything without asking whichever AI that they're using, and we've seen suicide from this, we've seen bad decision making from this, and
We've seen people fall in love with them.
Like people falling in love with them, and I think we've all seen the videos of some of the robotics that are starting to do assembly line work, some of the robotics that are meant to be dating partners. And like this is just the absolute tip of the iceberg. And so we've read these stories, we've seen these stories in film, we've played these stories in games. Now we're finally getting to the point where it's all kind of materializing, and it's a little terrifying until things normalize. And this is the retro 1980s kind of take on this. And I know we've seen it so many times, even for this time period. But it is this in a nutshell that's just done very well, and it's well thought out as far as I don't know. It might take a little while to get going, but I think it really pays off once Replace hits its stride with all of this, right? You have the creators' good intentions. The intentions then fracture and split. For anybody who's seen Arcane, the TV show that's been very popular lately, this is basically the same exact story. You have the co-creators, and one creator has a feeling about how the technology should be used, and the other has a different feeling. And those strands kind of pull against each other until they tear. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling, but yeah, it's there's so much going on, and it's already been done. But despite all of that, what comes of it is still very impactful and at times unique.
Yeah. And, I don't mind things that have already been done. I think that this game does enough right that it's forgiven for having, I don't want to say a generic story because that's not what this is, but it is, like I said before, it's not a story that does anything new. It didn't ever go in a direction where I thought, ooh, like I haven't seen this take on this before, And I was kind of waiting the whole time for it to do that because I really wanted it to, because if it would have, I would have rated this game much higher. But because it didn't do that, I think it's just, it will always be a really good game and not a great game. There was times where I thought that maybe it would in the story, and that it kind of didn't. But this game does a lot right. So one of the things that I think this game does incredibly well, first of all, the hub world was a really good decision. Having this place that you come back to that's familiar, that you see, where the people, where the NPCs live, and you can go visit them and talk to them. Every time you come back, the seasons change, and it's like a different vibe in the city. It's really cool. It really makes you feel grounded in the universe, and you feel like you want to come back and check up on your friends. It's a really fun element that it was just a linear story where you're constantly progressing through new levels, it would feel less, I would feel less connected to the world. So I think the developers made a really great decision with having that hub world there.
100%. The a big standout is I of course in classic fashion, I did not write down half the characters' notes, but there is a girl who is in the arcade section of this hub world.
Yes. Yeah.
And her mom is always away working in the mines. This hub world, or excuse me, hub town, city, whatever you want to call it, is the poor population of this world. And so the mom's always away working in the mines, and that leaves her daughter hanging out, fixing arcade cabinets for a sense of purpose and entertainment, and you get to be a part of that. And so it's moments like those where you have these little, not only world building moments, but just nice personal moments with the characters where you get to slow things down and live their life for the moment.
Yeah, I think of them as like grounding moments. It grounds you in the world, It makes you feel like
Yeah.
you are a part of this world. You are living here with them, and it makes you, those little experiences that kind of intrigue you, those experiences then drive the desire to explore more of the world. So now if I really get attached to this little girl who's fixing arcade cabinets, whose dad died and whose mom is constantly out working, and who you asked to borrow her, I mean, spoilers obviously for this whole game, but you have to borrow her binoculars to fix some telescope, and she gives you the binoculars after you become friends with her, and then later you realize through kind of a throwaway piece of dialogue that those binoculars were the last gift she had that reminded her of her dad or something like that. She always held on them closely around her neck. And
her mom says, "Do not, never get rid of these. Never give these binoculars away. They're very valuable."
And then yeah, exactly. And then you've had that little really fun human story, and you want to go around and look at other human stories. What is this guy's story over here? What's this guy sitting under the bridge? What's he have to say? What's this little shiny over here? What can I read? Can I read in this journal and find anything else out? Those are the kind of things that make me want to do that stuff. Yeah. So this game does a good job of grounding you.
Yeah.
I think another thing this game does really, really well is it borrows from so much. This game is just an amalgamation of a bunch of other media. In fact, I don't think this game, outside of the beauty of the art style, I don't think this game treads any new ground at all. And not to say that's a bad thing. I think that it does it really well. It takes a bunch of elements from a lot of different media and creates its own unique thing. Have you ever heard of a game called
a movie called Repo
a movie
Man?
Called Repo. I don't think it's called Repo Man. I think it's just called Repo.
Or is it just Repo?
Repo Man's a show.
Believe it or not. Okay. Believe it or not, I believe I have actually seen this in theaters. And if this is the same movie that we're thinking of.
Wait, it is Repo Man, actually. There's a Repo. I'm looking it up right now. There is a Repo Man.
Is it a Repo Man?
It's a 1984 film.
Well,
but Repo is a opera.
Okay,
that came out in 2008.
Real quick, the one that I'm thinking of is this guy goes around and has to retrieve human organs from living people who cannot pay their debt to have those organs in the first place. And it's basically like when you go and you tow someone's car because they can't pay.
Exactly what it is.
And
this game borrows from that so much.
It's super fucked up. Yes, exactly. And it kind of just takes the opposite direction of Cyberpunk, where instead of like in Cyberpunk, you have all of these people who are very heavily augmented, but they're augmented with technology. They're augmented with resources. And this game is like, no, we are going to rip out the singing vocals and throat and larynx and esophagus of this talented singer who's poor, and then like put that into a rich woman's like mouth and voice so that she can sing beautifully. It's very, very dark and dystopian.
Yeah, it is. I think like when you're talking about the dystopian future, I think Repo was a really interesting take on that. And, this game has another interesting take on it. Now, it's taking directly from what Repo was kind of talking about. But again, that's a really great way to take from other media and make it and build it into your world in an interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, I would like to know if the developers meant for this to kind of steal from it intentionally. But there's a game, there's a movie called Old Boy. And I think I've talked to you about this.
Oh, boy.
Before, Ryan. So Old Boy is a Korean film. Came out in 2003. And it's an incredible film. I highly recommend anybody watch it. But it is made famous for this specific scene, and I'm not going to, this isn't any story spoilers, but this is a visual spoiler, I guess, where the main character finds himself in a hallway, and the camera switches to a 2D sort of perspective in this hallway.
Oh, wait a minute. This is what's that karate game that I couldn't complete because I'm so bad at it, but I was really into it and it was super stylistic. Shit.
Sifu?
Sifu, yeah. Sifu has this exact same moment.
Okay. So Sifu's obviously giving a call back to Old Boy. And
Yes,
he has to fight
100%.
off like tons
yes.
of guys. He's way outnumbered by all these guys, and he's fighting in the hallway. And it's just him versus all these other guys. And it's a really epic, really brutal, really gnarly fight scene. And then later, and the camera kind of pans back and forth, and it's really gnarly. And then, what I think is probably the best Marvel content ever created. Now you can fight me in the, I guess there's no comments, but fight me in the email or whatever, digitalcpodcast@gmail.com, I think it is. And what I think is the best Marvel content ever created was the show Daredevil, which also gave birth to the Punisher series with Jon Bernthal, which came after. And it also rips this off where it gives you a fight scene in a hallway back and forth style. It's really great. I love it so much. And I feel like every fight in Replaced is just kind of an Old Boy fight, and it feels really good and cool. So I really appreciated that. And it's another example of how this game just kind of takes from other media. And I don't want to say it doesn't have an original thought, but it definitely is heavily inspired by a lot of really good media, which is that's not a bad place to start, to be honest.
Yeah, it's almost like Crimson Desert in the sense of this has been done before, but here it is in a new light. Completely different games.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that this game actually has a good story.
Well, this game has a story.
Yeah. Whereas Crimson Desert is pretty non-existent. Spoilers for whenever we have our Crimson Desert conversation. That's how I feel about it right now, though.
I too have yet to find anything.
Yeah, but man, there's a lot of good things about that game too.
Oh boy,
you should watch that.
Yeah,
watch that. It's a really good film.
Now that this has come up multiple times due to media that is ripping off this scene, I feel obligated to see the source material here.
It's one of my favorite fight scenes in all of media. And you know what? One of my second favorite fight scenes comes from the Daredevil TV series. And it's not even Daredevil who's fighting. So, spoiler. It's...
Dang.
They're
Dang. All of media?
Old Boy? Yeah.
I've
Old
got
Boy
it.
fight scene is one of my favorite fight scenes in all of media.
Dang. That's crazy. The weeb that I am, I have a line of anime fight scenes that I'm thinking of.
Okay, well, I'll say
Now
live action fight scenes. I won't say anime. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I've got like the craziest, most absurd, super cool choreographed fight scenes from animated stuff.
But like you can make those animated characters do anything, and whereas it's a lot more grounded when it comes to what you can get humans to do, even with special effects. And I'm not going to count any Marvel movies that are like crazy affected. Like I'm talking about rooted in reality film. It's kind of what I'm speaking to.
Yes. Yeah. So along the lines of the Darth Maul Obi-Wan Episode 1 fight. Could be in the same realm as Old Boy as far as live action stuff goes, where some actors had to get out there and do that.
Yeah, they actually had to perform the feats exactly, even if there's a green screen behind them or something like that. Yeah,
and there's so much suspension of disbelief for anime choreography.
Yeah, so let's talk about gameplay a little bit. What are your thoughts on the gameplay of this game?
Yeah, gameplay. When it comes to the hub world, it's great. I think it's fine. It allows you to revisit things and watch the evolution of the town and see the evolution and character building of the characters. I think all of that's great. I think being able to return and do these little mini games are a lot of fun and they reward you well. That's great. The combat, it starts off very one note. And we talked about earlier, how long do you give a game to impress you or to feel like you're going to stick with it to the end? And this one certainly takes some time to get going, and it certainly builds on itself when it comes to the combat. So you're not going to see what everything has to offer until you are probably even past the halfway mark of the game. But despite getting to that halfway point, there's still quite a few things that I wanted to see from the combat, or like even just like small things to be tweaked that I didn't feel like were fluid enough in the combat that we just didn't get.
Like what? Yeah, like give
Um,
me some examples. I'm just curious. I agree with you because I don't think the combat was like a really high point of the game or anything, but I just want to hear what you have to say.
yeah, so the combat builds on itself over time, which means yeah. So when you first start out, it's very simplistic. It's not great, and then it gets better and better and better, but it doesn't really exceed your expectations per
Hmm.
se. I I wish I should be more diligent about taking notes very specific to combat nuances in video games. But I remember there being a bunch of moments, especially with the heavy enemies, where with the heavy enemies you have to tear their armor off before you can like start properly doing
Hmm.
damage. And they're kind of sponges unless you have your meter charged up to use your gun
Hmm.
attack. And once you have your meter charged up to do that, things are pretty seamless. But if you don't have that in that instance, things are not fluid at all as far as combat goes. So you kind of have this like weird stalemate with an enemy for a prolonged amount of time until you can finally charge up that ability and then kind of finish them off. Otherwise, you're just very slowly whittling away at their health. And I think that once you've conquered an encounter, you shouldn't have to wait out that encounter
Hmm.
to finally get that victory, especially once you have things figured out. There's also a lot of moments in combat where you have a lot to pay attention to when it comes to the enemies attack styles and when exactly they're attacking. And so you can have a sniper who's winding up a sniper shot, and you can see that he's got his red dot laser across the screen. And then you also have a big heavy guy who's charging at you, and then you also have a nimble assassin enemy type that you can only parry and counter to do any damage to. And when you kind of shove all of these things together in very specific instances, it's I don't know if unfair is the right word, but like maybe just annoying is probably the best way of describing it. Where when all of these things collide at once, there's not a proper solution
Yeah.
for it, and that's just problematic when it comes to the combat. And then when it comes to traversal, especially the climb. I mean, we've another episode. Let's add this one to the list of episodes that we could talk about that has nothing to do with any particular game, but also a lot of
Yeah.
games. It is traversal in games and climbing, but probably more climbing than
Oh my
anything.
God, dude.
Where there's so many games that I could point to and ramble on and on about
Horizon
how
Forbidden West.
the traversal and climbing for Forbidden West can be one.
I remember we have a podcast episode recorded on Horizon Forbidden West. We haven't released it yet, but I remember listening to it, I don't know, a while back, and I went so hard on the climbing in that game. I fucking hated it. I don't even remember it that well,
Hate
but man, when I recorded that episode, I was pretty fired up about it.
yeah, I remember you're super fired up about it, and I remember being like, "Yeah, like this isn't a strong point of the game, but it doesn't ruin it for me either." But at least in that moment, you were not having it. You're like, "No, this is
Yeah.
awful." I think since I don't know which game I want to point to, Assassin's Creed is probably the first game that I want to blame for this, and then Uncharted after Assassin's Creed. I think those two games created a popularity within the industry of very boring, very non-skill based sections of gameplay that just pad gameplay length and aren't enjoyable, and we see them constantly
Hmm.
in modern gaming, and maybe we will for forever and until more game developers get ballsy enough to try and implement something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom's traversal. I would say even Elden Ring was like, hey, we have to do something about traversal in our game that is not climbing and that is torrent bunny hopping everywhere.
Okay, but there's a difference between climbing and platforming, and I would say that using torrent is platforming. And even in the janky mechanics, and I'm putting janky in quotes there because obviously FromSoft games feel very tight and the combat is very precise, but it also has a certain amount of like the movement has a certain amount of jank. And you remember in Elden Ring how much you have to like parkour stuff to find the secret areas and like walk on like the ramparts of the castle and find the secret little treasure and do like a bunch of parkouring. That seems fun to me because you are actually trying to use the movement of the game itself to platform in ways that makes you feel like you are sort of doing something cheeky like you're not supposed to get there, but obviously the developers intended for you to do it. But the climbing mechanics that we're talking about in Horizon Forbidden West, in Replace,
Replace.
and other games that try to simulate that, like maybe the Uncharted's or the Assassin's Creed's, is you're trying to make your character jump between very specific hold points that the developers have pre-programmed, and it is not fluid most of the time, you know?
No, I totally agree. I think there's three styles of traversal in this sense. The kind that we're talking about for Replaced and Forbidden West and Uncharted would be like linear traversal, or scripted, maybe scripted traversal is the right language for this, where it is a matter of pressing the buttons and lining things up, obviously, and it's very scripted, very linear. And then you have something like Elden Ring, which is, and maybe even like Bethesda games are good examples of the middle ground, where it's definitely platforming and you have full control, and it is there is a certain amount of nuance and skill involved. And then you have like the more high end stuff, like maybe Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I guess you can toss an Assassin's Creed in here. I don't know what other game you want to choose for like high end, like proper platforming traversal. Maybe the Mario games.
Yeah.
Mario, like
maybe like
modern Mario, or just modern platforming
Mirror's
games,
Edge
modern
or something might be the ultimate example.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, Mirror's Edge. What's the zombie game that's basically Mirror's Edge?
Dying Light.
Dying Light. Yeah. Dying Light, Mirror's Edge, Breath of the Wild, right? That's kind of your high level platforming and traversal in my mind.
I think I would argue the Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor series is pretty good too.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't played Survivor, but at least for Fallen Order, I would lump that into Uncharted, only because there's a lot of scripted sequences when it comes to traversal and climbing.
You know what? When it comes to Fallen Order,
sliding down things,
yeah,
it's like, oh, I'm sliding down the slide again. It's like, okay, well, I've done this 100 times in all of these other games.
At least in Jedi Survivor, and you'll have to let me know what your experience is after you play it at some point, but I like games that are like, okay, you have a double jump and you have a dash. Now, where can you get with those two things alone? And can you be creative enough to use it? Or like you have a wall run, a double jump, and a dash. Now get through this obstacle course, or try to get to this little hidden chest area when you have to really precisely time your jumps. I think that's different than the frustration you feel in Replaced or Horizon Forbidden West when you're trying to get your character, or Assassin's Creed, when you're trying to get your character to jump to a certain hold point and then to go flying off in the opposite direction because the game scripting just doesn't understand what you want to do very well, or you can't translate what you want to do in your head to what you want to do in the game very well. Whereas if you're platforming in Jedi Survivor or Elden Ring, you know that you fucked up the movements. You fucked up. But when your character in Assassin's Creed goes jumping off in some random direction, you just want to rage throw your controller through the TV screen because you're like, what the fuck? That was not what I was doing. It's not what I was doing. You know? Yeah. even if secretly it was what you were doing. It's just
no, I totally know what you mean. Yeah, it's I would say at least with Jedi, well, I don't know. I've only played Survivor. I've only played Fallen Order. I haven't played
Fallen
Survivor.
Order was a lot more scripted than Jedi Survivor is a much more like double jump dash kind of traversal than Fallen Order, which is a lot more like Assassin's Creed. Follow the edge of the rock around the side and then jump up kind of thing.
Yeah. As somebody who really loves the Metroid games, I feel like the Metroid games are the perfect example of high skill based linear traversal. In Elden Ring and Fallen Order, at least, fall into a tier below that, but also a tier above the hyperlinear examples that we've given with Forbidden West or this game. Yeah, like Metroid is like, it's crazy linear, but it's insanely skill based. Like you will not get to where you want to get to unless you're skilled enough to get there.
Which I like.
Yeah, which I like too. I don't know how much of that. I just know after playing Fallen Order that it's more Uncharted than Metroid.
Fallen Order definitely is, and I would say Survivor goes more towards Metroid, but it's not like Mario Odyssey or something like that. You know, I've never played Metroid, so I'm not sure. But
yeah, you're not jumping off your little cappy
exactly
to like hype.
It's not that far off either, but it's not. I don't know. We'll have to revisit this conversation. And back to Replace. The traversal is fucking
it's on
annoying
the rails.
Sometimes.
It's linear.
And yeah, exactly. And like there's sometimes where you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted my character to do, or oh, I thought that was a hold point and it's not, or
Or, oh, I thought this was a safe
yeah,
zone. There's a handful of stealth-ish sequences that you're forced to complete and replaced,
yep.
and they're not great, and they're not necessarily fun. And the thing that sucks, one of the things that I wrote down in my notes is that games like Replaced are perfect seamless experiences when you do them right the first time.
Yep.
But when you don't, it's not fun.
Yeah, and that's the great challenge of the developers is they want to try to develop the game in a way that it was really obvious to them, but that's because they've been developing the game for fucking 5 years, so they know what the mechanics are. But for you, who's playing the game for 3 hours, you're like, oh, I didn't and then they introduce a new gameplay mechanic. It just it never works out as seamlessly as the developers intend.
Exactly. And they did improve upon it. I saw the patch notes come through, and the developers were definitely had open ears on the criticism. There's a lot of criticism on the game for checkpoints and like, okay, if you fail this platforming segment, like where do you start back at? And a lot of these things were fixed probably after we completed the game, but it's definitely things that you kind of wish were caught in the play testing stage. And I know it's difficult when you're an indie team and you only have you're a smaller company and you don't have all the QA support that you would normally have with a bigger studio. But it's one of those things where, yeah, developing inside a bubble just kind of comes and bites the indie devs sometimes, especially in this instance here. But yeah, that's gameplay wrapped. I think it's at its best when you're in the hub world. The combat is great as it continues to add onto itself up into a point where then it just kind of stagnates, and then it has some glaring issues with certain enemy types. The enemy variety isn't super great, right? You kind of just fight the same enemies for the entire game.
Yeah, exactly. Can I go back to traversal?
Yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to bring up that I have in my notes is I would audibly laugh out loud with this overused mechanic where you are traversing through some sort of ducting in the ceiling, and then you fall through the ceiling and have to start fighting enemies. That happens so many times.
I believe this is intentional. I don't think this is
okay. So they're trolling us, that is
like,
okay.
Yes,
I was like, what the? And you always hear footsteps running underneath you, and it's all quiet. And you hear a bunch of footsteps tapping underneath you, and you're like, oh, here it comes. I wonder where I'm going to fall through. Oh, there it is. And then you fall through the ceiling. You're like, oh, wow, dramatic fight scene. It's like,
I'm glad that you brought this up, because I do believe this was a legitimate intention of the developers. Like, I think they wanted to make fun of. I do think they wanted to make fun of the crawl through. Ever since Half-Life, right? Crawling through these little vents and falling into sections of a bigger room and getting attacked by enemies. I do think this was something that was intended. There are a few shout outs and nods to other video games. I don't know if you noticed the Last of Us Part 2 tractor in a golden field right at the very beginning to kind of symbolize that shit's about to get fucked up. Like right off the start of the game. There's a few other instances of nods to other video games that they kind of cheekily put in, or the same thing with movie references and that sort of thing. So I do hope and also think that this was intended. It does make you wonder if this was to pad the game length though at times, because between the amount of dryer vent sequences and falling through and pushing boxes so that you can there's some clever puzzles in the game. That's one thing we haven't touched on.
Yeah, there were a couple of good ones.
Specifically yet. There's a few really good puzzles where you go, well, how the hell do you do this? And then you figure it out and you're like, okay, that's actually pretty clever. But despite that, yeah, there's a lot of rinse and repeat that, again, if you cut an hour to 2 hours out of this game, I think it would be a tighter experience getting rid of some of those moments.
Yeah, I agree.
There is the classic, you should have seen it coming, and I didn't, but I'm also an idiot. Is the woman who loves and protects and nourishes the town ends up becoming the one who sells everybody out.
Yeah, the matriarch. I have this in my notes too.
The matriarch. Yeah. I didn't personally see it coming, but we've seen it so many times before.
I didn't see it coming either, and I think that there was... Okay, I'm of two minds on this, because...
Her arm missing was the foreshadowing, and I completely missed it, but I'm also an idiot.
Wait. But no. She gave her arm to Yo-Yo. This is the woman who literally gave her arm to Yo-Yo without hesitation, because Yo-Yo would be more, would make better use of it.
Right. But like that's the foreshadowing, right?
How it
The unusual the unusual generosity and sacrifice of the leader ends up becoming the person who is too good to be true for the camp is the one who's actually selling
but
everybody
like
out in the
I don't
background.
understand how that's foreshadowing. I think that's just weird writing because it makes it to be like she's willing to sacrifice so much without hesitation for her group of people that she feels responsible for, only to completely betray them for what? A deal, like a shady deal with a corporation that's, or the corpos or the police state that's not going to really honor their word anyways. It's such a weird character arc for her. I didn't
I
understand
mean,
it.
yes, but like when I the more I thought about it, it's like okay, so she gives her body part to the tech dork who's going to accidentally spy on the entire town. It makes sense to me. It's like okay, like the guy who's got all the computers and the one who's going to be like actually accidentally taking tabs on everyone is going to be the one who's like the most capable and the one who feels like the most safe from that leader giving up her ligament or her arm or whatever it is. At least that's how I looked into it by the time I found out about the
I
reveal.
mean, by the time I found out about the reveal, I was really kind of dumbfounded, and I sat there kind of like you, it sounds like, and just thought about it for a second. And I was wondering if the developers are trying to get across this is what the weight of responsibility does to somebody. Like, if you feel so responsible for all these people, you'll do almost anything to protect them, even if it definitely puts you in a moral gray area or even over to the dark side of morality. But even then, I think that's a weird character arc for anyone to go through. I think that if you care
Yeah.
about all those people, and what the irony is, she got all those people fucked up. I mean, the cops raid the town, and that's a really, really powerful scene, by the way. Like coming back to that hub world that
Yeah.
you've known to love, or you've grown to love, and like you know all the people, and you're talking to them, and you're checking up on your friends every time you come back from a level, and then you come back and the police have raided it and everyone's brutally beaten or kidnapped or killed. That was such an emotional moment.
Yeah.
And to know that was caused by this matriarch who everybody put their undying faith into was just a strange, sort of out of pocket, we need to have drama kind of arc, in my opinion. Even if it was done with the intention of creating something emotional, it still seems strange to me that she would sacrifice her arm and then betray all of her people.
Yeah. I guess I the way that I perceived it, it was like like her arm was a down payment on the ultimate betrayal.
A down payment to who?
Down payment to the higher ups, the upper elite, the society. Like she sold everybody out to get ahead,
But
right? Like her whole plan was to leave and become an upper side person.
that wasn't my read on it at all
And
because she gave her arm to Yo-Yo, right?
well, right, but like the only reason why I'm saying this is like think of all the technology in that town. Think of all the technology in that hub, right? It's all with Yo-Yo. It's all in that basement. It's all hidden away, and like it's all of that is actively selling out that entire area. The reason why she puts her arm in Yo-Yo's socket
Uh-huh.
is is because that's the payoff. It's all of his expertise and technology that is the betrayal. It's not. She's not giving it to the cook who's feeding the people. She's not giving it to the doctor who's healing the people. She's not giving it to the little girl who's repairing the arcade machines to make people happy. She's not giving it to whoever, right? Like she's giving it to the only person who can possibly sell out the entire town without even realizing it. And I like at least that's how I extrapolated things, and I was like, yes, like that's pretty brilliant. Like that's pretty
I
smart.
really like that take. It hadn't occurred to me, and if that's actually the take that the writers were going for, I also really like that. If her entire end game was simply to become upper elite, the only thing is she doesn't really say that even in what don't you kill her in the end, right? And she doesn't even say that in death.
Right.
She still
doesn't.
tries to justify her actions by saying she was trying to save her people. So if she was really just trying to become like, it would have been interesting if, and of course nobody ever says that, right? No one's going to say, like, it would be kind of unrealistic if she was like, ha ha ha, I played all of you this whole time. I was actually evil. Mwahaha, I'm becoming a aristocrat. Like, that wouldn't be very fun character development. Like, she has to be the hero of her own story.
Right.
So I really like the idea that she was actually just playing everybody the entire time. But man, that's a weird way That's a weird way to play it to get to the. You'd think you'd just like try to sneak in, or I don't know, try to sell somebody out or give them a name of someone important. You wouldn't try to just like literally fuck over hundreds or I don't know, thousands of people that you were responsible for just to get a ticket to the chocolate factory, you know?
I guess I was thinking of like the crazy sacrifices that an undercover agent would make to not blow their cover.
Mm.
I don't know. Name your example. I'm sure there's a bunch of them, both fictitious and real world, of the crazy ass things that people did to not blow their cover while they're behind enemy lines. And then again, I forget his name, but he's the other guy who's with her. I wish I would have written his name down. And I believe he ends up saving you. You know, he ends up like lifting the
Yeah, he's like the big
that's on
badass
fire and
who's
coming and getting you.
kind of been kind of a dick to you the whole time.
Yeah. It's like the classic, like, oh, the guy who doesn't like you that much is like actually the good guy, and the chick who likes you more is like actually the bad guy. But I sometimes I kind of imagine maybe something that shouldn't even been perceived in the first place is what the narrative is. What game is it where you're like, oh, I really like that take, and I was like, yeah, but like I still don't think that's what the developers intended when they were writing. I can't remember which game it is.
Where you completely changed my mind on what the narrative was going to be or should have been.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, like you really liked whatever I had to say, and you're like, that's crazy. Like I didn't think of it like that. And I'm like, yeah, like that's how that's how I thought. But like the more these instances come up, like I don't know if I'm writing the writers into a better situation in which they didn't even intend in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I think with that original take, that is what it was. God, what game was that? Why can't I think of it?
I know, it's driving me nuts. Like we've talked about this game so many times. I don't think it was like, was it BioShock Infinite?
Well, you have a good take on BioShock Infinite as well that I really liked.
I'm not sure if it's that one or not, but it was one of those games where there's some interpretation left up to the game or to the viewer, and
yeah,
I just kind of took off and ran with
it.
it.
I really want to think of it. It'll probably come to me before the episode's over.
But anyways, that was what I thought.
Yeah, I really like that, your take on her vibe. I hope that would be way better writing than just a random betrayal for the sake of betrayal. That was part of. I mean, the writing is really high, and it's pretty high in some places, but it's not. Like I said, this game is just. It's just a weird kind of amalgamation of tropes, including like stuff like falling through the ceiling a thousand times, and like 80s nostalgia, and
like the initiative is this 1945 post World War II. You know, they're doing Fallout testing and they're saving people's lives, and it starts off as like this, like what would happen at the end of World War II. There's a lot of that. Yeah, there's so many borrowed things in this game.
Yeah.
Or borrowed tropes. Or I guess tropes don't have to be borrowed, just tropes.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, you have to be forgiving of that stuff because everything is Shakespeare, right? Like we've all as a species have been telling the same stories since we invented campfires and started telling stories around them. But, you know, a little ingenuity is okay too. A little like a fresh take or a twist you don't see coming is, and not for the sake of subverting expectations, but just like a fun new twist on, you know, these stories we've heard 1,000 times is always welcome. And I don't think this game really achieved that. It's part of why I scored it lower. Is like this game could have been an 8 or a 9, but it didn't elevate its writing, it didn't elevate its gameplay. It just kind of stayed pretty good for everything. Not bad, just pretty good.
Yeah. And I can't really disagree with it. It's just I kind of base my ratings off feeling, and I think the music was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I think there was like the platforming moments that didn't suck are the moments in which you're not platforming at all.
Yeah.
And I like those moments. Like there's some moments where you're climbing up like this hotel sign in like crazy, like super hyper beautiful 80s dystopian cyberpunk replaced land, and it's like snowing, or you're in a forest, and yeah, so much of it is just the feels of it. And it's I keep wrapping back to Uncharted. Even when you get to Uncharted 4 and the series really hits its stride, like the gameplay is not its strong suit. Like the platforming isn't the best, and the puzzles aren't the best, and the gunplay is not the best. But it's like the adventure that you get on the way there. And yeah, it's I think Replace just has that Uncharted energy where it doesn't do anything particularly well, whether it's the story or the gameplay. Graphics, of course, in both of these games that we're talking about are good, but yeah, it's just a vibe game, and I hate just yelling vibe and just walking away from it because that's a pretty modern pop culture way of dealing with things. But
no,
but that's how
I do. I mean, I do understand what you mean, and I think vibes are like 30% of any game or more, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this game. I really like the arm sequence when you get that extra power-up arm. I think that was a really cool, really kind of in-universe badass moment.
Yeah, you cut off the baddie's arm and stitch it onto
Yep.
yourself. The operating table scene is super
Yep.
epic, where you're like putting yourself under the knife to limp yourself along a little bit further to try and better the rest of the lower class.
Yeah.
I think that's epic and awesome. Again, we've seen that 1,000 times before, where the hero gets epic and badass right before burning out.
Yep. And then the last thing I have in my notes is I really did not like the hacking mini game at first, and then it grew on me. I actually kind of liked it towards the end.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the hacking mini game. I just kind of liked it.
Nice.
I didn't think about it. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. This is like, you know what it reminded me of a little bit is trying to, in Breath of the Wild when you have to grab that one square and then, or that one metallic cube and then try to match it to the cube in the mirror image puzzle to get the Korok seed.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm describing that very well, but for some reason it's just like,
there's a bunch of squares. Yeah. You're supposed to put your square that you could move in the right square, but you don't know which one, and you just do it, and then it's the right one. But then as you do it more, you figure out where it's supposed to be, and then it becomes more enjoyable. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That's kind of exactly what it reminded me of. But yes, thank you for getting my obscure Breath of the Wild reference.
I know exactly. Because like the first one you do, you're like, nice. That's easy. I get it. And then, like, as the game progresses, you're like, "What the fuck do you? Where the hell do you want me to put this stupid cube?"
Yeah, exactly.
And then by the end, you're like, "Ooh, where am I putting this stupid cube?" I'm excited.
Yeah. You got anything else on this game?
No, that's it. I'm glad that we brought up all of the references across other mediums, whether it be Blade Runner, whether it be Repo or Repo Man or whichever it was, with harvesting body parts, like organic body parts to give to the elite, to give to the aristocrats.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, this is just a great remix of ideas that have already been thought before. Rearranged in a way that can be pleasing at times and mediocre at others.
Yeah. Oh man, I really wish I could remember the hot take you have on a game that I really like.
What is that?
I know.
Is that?
It really bothers me because we've talked to other people about this too.
I'm like, yeah. So I've got like this crazy idea where like this is this. And what game is that? It's not BioShock Infinite. That's the one that I really
no, it's not
on,
BioShock
but
Infinite.
It might not be.
It's not BioShock Infinite.
Okay.
I do like your hot take on BioShock Infinite, which we'll get to at some point, but it's something else, and it's gonna bother me until the next episode.
What game is that? I know I'm gonna like wake up in the middle of the night, hopefully remembering what it is, but I don't even know. And that's the worst part. Is like I can't even remember what I thought. I can't remember what I thought.
Okay, it'll come back to us at some point.
Well, do we just end it there?
Or
until next time, Pragmata?
Until next time, Pragmata, I think. You have anything else to say?
Who is Warren? Who is Reach?
Oh, you know what? I forgot I do have this in my notes. I forgot I was gonna do this. Can I read you a short poem?
Of course.
Cool. I did not write this poem. This is by Emily Dickinson. Are you ready?
I'm still excited, but for a sec I thought there might have been a possibility that you were gonna read me a poem that you wrote.
Let me preface this. I wish I wrote this poem. Let me preface this by when I was editing. Well, you know what? And this is, I'm saying this to you, but I'm also saying this to anybody who's listening. You know how in our last episode we got all kind of emotional and talked about Anne Roger, and we're kind of trauma dumping and talking about each other and like the things that we've gone through with not mental illness and other people's and our own and stuff like that. And you said something that stuck out to me in the moment and then stuck out to me in editing as well, where we were talking about the end, um, the end text in Anne Roger, the greatest of these is love, faith, hope, love, the greatest of these is love. And like we were talking about faith and hope and how that's bullshit and stuff like that. And you were saying, and I know you were just kind of talking in the moment. And you were saying, faith is bullshit and hope is mostly bullshit. And I agree with the first half of that sentence, but I want to read you this poem by Emily Dickinson. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that's kept so many warm. I heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, and never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. And that's a short poem by Emily Dickinson about how hope is a feeling worth having. And I think that we should.
And hope is not always bullshit.
Hope is not always bullshit. I just wanted to make sure you know that. I wanted to remind myself of that. That's a little poem I read to myself every once in a while. And even though we were going hard on faith and hope and love, like I think in the end we got the message across that love is cool and hope is not bullshit and faith can often be bullshit. But they're different things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Because you're right. I did write off both faith and hope, and then just reverted to love as the only worthwhile of the Trinity.
Yeah, and I think that right now we all need some hope. I was listening to a podcast today actually, where the person on the podcast said that hope is just the other side of fear. And they said that you shouldn't have fear, but you also shouldn't have hope. And I don't think I agree with that take. I mean, I think it's an interesting thought that hope is the other side of fear. I've never really thought about that before. But I think that...
I haven't either, but I also don't think that they're opposite enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way that he described it was like fear is just worrying about something happening in the future. And hope is just hoping that something happens in the future. And he was kind of making an argument that you should just be sort of meditative and just okay with whatever happens in the future and not be worried one way or the other, just deal with it in the moment. Because it's true, like hoping doesn't give you much and fear doesn't give you much. Like if you're really anxious to get on a plane, like your anxiety is not going to give you much. Whereas if you're really hopeful that your business deal works out, that hope isn't going to give you very much either. Like, so that I understand that concept, but I think that clinging to, like, it's like what Emily Dickinson is saying in this poem, right? It's the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. It's the thing that lets you cling to it to get you through the darkest of times. And I think even if it's fake, it's worth clinging to.
Yeah. Or even something that's fake that starts out as fake then become real.
Yeah, like manifests.
As crazy as that sounds. Of course there's a massive double-edged sword to that way of thinking, and that kind of loops us back around to investing emotions heavily in fear, investing emotions heavily in hope can both be hazardous.
Yeah.
But also with the right doses of each can be quite healthy.
Yeah, and fear is a human. What is it? There's a book I think called Fear as a Gift, and it's about how you should listen to your gut instinct if you feel like walking down that dark alley is a bad idea. It's probably because it is. And, if you feel like a cougar is walking up on your campsite, it might be actually happening.
Yeah. The amount of times that I've thought about potentially injuring myself by doing the next thing, and then like right after injuring myself, usually it's like a cut,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're like, dang, like I probably, or like a burn. Burns and cuts are probably the most consistent.
Yeah, like you're working on a construction project and you're like, man, the way I'm trying to cut this, piece of rope is probably going to slip through and cut my finger. Yep, there it happened.
Yep, and there it is. And now I'm really mad because I thought about it first and it still
Yeah.
happened.
Exactly. Interesting. Anyways, I just wanted to make sure that both you and myself and everybody listening is remaining hopeful out there.
Yeah, you got to, because otherwise, well, it's not great.
Yeah. And I hope that all those people that Reach affected and replaced are out there with hope somewhere in their hearts, even though they're living in a police post-apocalyptic organ-stealing state.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right. Well, Pragmata soon.
Yeah. Pragmata is next, and then after that, I'd love to say Crimson Desert, but it'll probably be a while
it's
before
probably
either
not
of
going to
us.
be Crimson Desert if I'm being honest.
Headbanger! Headbanger! Ba, 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 ba.
Oh man, baby metal is the truest form of all metal. All right, I'm going to stop recording.